Welcome to the Corporate Women's Ministry Department of the Church of God of Prophecy UK, our monthly Connect Live series. We are delighted tonight to bring you a host of panelists, and we'll be discussing a very important topic, a topic that's affecting 52% of the UK public who know someone who suffers from dementia. That's 34.5 million people. And so the topic we're discussing tonight is dementia and the different forms of dementia, how that affects families, how that affects carers, and we'll be having a discussion, further discussions about, what happens when your loved one loses their mental capacity? How do we address that? What can we put in place? And how do we treat someone who has dementia with that dignity, personalization, dignity and care? And what approaches? And what do we do when we notice that our loved ones, there's something happening and there's a bit of a memory lapses and the early stages? How do we recognize those early stages, and what can we do? What can we put in place? So thank you for joining us. And if you know anyone else that might be, just ping your friends, let them know that we've gone live. Come and join us for tonight. Grab a cup of tea, cup of coffee, water. I promise this is water. And just relax with us tonight. You will have the opportunity to ask questions, whether you're watching through YouTube. Please put your questions in and comments in YouTube. If you're joining us via Zoom, put your questions in the chat function, or indeed if you're joining us by Facebook, let us know your thoughts. We want to hear from you tonight, and we want to answer your question. Also, you can follow us on Twitter, Joyce Fletcher 20, on our COGOP Instagram, Women's Ministries Instagram, and Facebook. And please subscribe. There is a button. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe to our channel. Tonight, I also want to welcome not just our ladies and gentlemen, of course, and anyone that's watching in the UK, but, if you're tuning in from overseas, I know we have some people coming in from the US tonight, and we've got some people joining us from Canada. We've got some people joining us from Germany and different parts of Europe as well, and also from Africa and the different states in Africa. So whether it's the Caribbean, the US, or whichever part of the world you're joining us, I would like to say welcome, and please enjoy and contribute as much as you can to tonight. Right, I also want to say my regular co-host, Powell, is not able to join us because she's celebrating the birthdays of her grandchildren tonight. And I just want to give a shout out to her grandchildren and just to say happy birthday. I hope you've enjoyed your day, and I hope Granddad and Grandma have enjoyed their time with the grandchildren as well. So enjoy. But tonight I do want to introduce my co-host, who is none other than Priska. Now, Priska was the former National Women's Ministries Director for Zimbabwe. Priska, I wasn't even going to attempt to pronounce your surname. I thought I would let you pronounce your surname and introduce yourself to our Connect audience tonight. Over to you, Priska.
Kingdom greetings to everyone in the whole wide world, and welcome aboard. We know we've got guests from Africa, from Europe, from the Americas. You know, this world is now a global village, so we are just in one global village. Welcome to our Connect series where we are speaking about dementia tonight. My name is Priska Nyamuka Mandiambira. I am co-hosting tonight, and I am the COGOP UK Connect lead. I have the pleasure of sitting in various Connect group, WhatsApp groups, and I can see you women are doing a fantastic job connecting, fellowship, supporting each other, uplifting each other through this Connect vision. As Joyce said, I was the Women's Ministry Director for Zimbabwe for over 10 years, and now I am residing here in the UK, where I am also a specialist district nurse manager in the NHS. So yeah, let's sit back, let's relax, let's enjoy this Connect series on dementia. Dementia is a scourge that is, progressively increasing. It's touching every aspect of life. It's touching all communities. So today we are blessed. We've got specialists who are going to speak to us about dementia. Thank you. Over to you, Joyce.
Thank you, Priska. And you're right, we have a host of panelists tonight, well-renowned, and we're going to introduce them for you right now. So our first panelist is Dr. Reverend Carol Tomlin. And I'll just read a little bit of her biography because I think it's important to hear. And Carol will just introduce herself as well and just give us away. So Reverend Dr. Tomlin is a multi-award winning educator and ordained minister with a long and distinguished academic career, teaching in universities, both nationally and internationally. She held leading roles in several education, independent study, and she delivers a range of courses and was a visiting tutor for the course at the Queen's Foundation in Birmingham. She's currently visiting at the University of Leeds and involved in training ministers as the principal of Kingdom School of Theology. So really experienced, established leader, minister in our community. And Reverend Carol is here tonight sharing story as a carer. Welcome, Carol. It's such a delight to have you tonight. I'll just say a few words to our audience who are watching tonight.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to join you. It's a pleasure to share with you my own particular journey as a co-carer. And I hope that you will glean from what I have to say.
Thank you so much, Carol. I think I cut off a little bit of your biography just to say that you also worked as a healthcare chaplain as well. And Dr. Carol is also the author of several academic publications, including a most recent book called Preach It, Understanding African Caribbean Preaching. So thank you, and we'll hear more from Carol as the evening progresses. Thank you very much, Carol. The next person the next guest that we have tonight for you that we want to share is Dion Thompson. So Dion is a nurse, a registered nurse by background. Hi, Dion. How are you? Hi, Dion.
I'm fine. Hello.
Great to have you, Dion. So Dion is a registered nurse. She's born in Guyana and is a registered nurse and midwife. Oh, Okay, we'll have to bear that in mind, Dion. She taught at Charles Rosa School of Nursing, Chippenham Hospital, as well as she's also a OSCE examiner with Oxford Brookes University. So over the last few years, Dion has been giving presentations on dementia and is with us today in this capacity. She emphasizes that seeing the person rather than the illness is key. Now that's really, and we really look forward to hearing more about that. And Dion works as a secretary in the Church of God of Prophecy in Milksham. She's got 2 grown sons and lives with her husband, who's been providing the technical support for the presentation. Dion, please give a welcome to all of our guests who have tuned in tonight.
Okay, so good evening, everyone. I'm quite happy to be on this program this evening. It's the first time I'm on the Connect series, taking part, actually doing a presentation. And I'm quite happy to share my experience in dementia because it's not just a UK problem, like was mentioned earlier. It's a global problem. And, we just need to learn how to live with this situation that is rising before our eyes. So I'm glad to share. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dion. At this time, I'm going to pass over to Priska, who's going to introduce our next 2 panelists.
Thank you, Joyce. I'm going to introduce one of our most powerful speakers tonight, who is Shares Christopher. Shares will be speaking on mental capacity and power of attorney, very topical issues that are really essential when we speak of dementia and the impact it has on life. Shares coordinates a health and well-being connect group for Wembley Prophecy, being the youngest of 5 children, representing a vibrant, warm, multifaceted culture of Caribbean heritage and lineage. Her parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents originate from the beautiful island of St. Kitts and the Dominican Republic. Shares was born in the cold UK. We know the Dominican is nice and warm, but she regards herself as a Kittitian citizen of dual nationality and plays an active part of the Caribbean diaspora in the UK, bringing and bridging the commonalities of good business ethics together, strengthening relations, maximizing awareness of unifying accomplishments, developing training for organizations within the islands. This is fantastic work Shares is doing. Shares is an entrepreneur. At a young age, Shares first connected her own international business of marketing, ordering, selling, and distributing Christian garments before entering the property development market. With the gains, she became a proprietor by the age of 21. That is really fantastic and a beautiful achievement. And it is safe to say that by the age of 30, she had a portfolio of several sustainable properties. Well done, Shares. We are really favored to have you as a guest on our Connect series. I'll let Shares say a few words before I introduce our next guest.
Good afternoon or good evening to all those watching across the world. Welcome to this evening's session to deal with dementia, and I hope I'll be able to share from my expertise in the legal profession things like why you should have a power of attorney before you lose your capacity. And also, if somebody in your family or circle need to go into a care home, how and the implications of the Care Act, how they work together. Thank you for listening and enjoy. And
Thank you, Shez. Now I'm going to introduce Cheryl Jackson, who works for Culture Dementia UK. Welcome, Cheryl. Culture Dementia UK was founded in February 1998. Culture Dementia UK was previously known as Friends of African Caribbean Carers and Sufferers of Dementia, which is FACCSD. Culture Dementia UK became a national charity in the same year. It was set up to support carers and people living with dementia among the African and Caribbean communities. It identifies the need for for such an organization. After researching, they found out that there were no other groups in the country that caters specially for the African Caribbean community of the BAME communities. So welcome, Cheryl. We are privileged to have you because you work right in the center of our topic today. So we will be listening carefully to how we can cope with dementia, what you have to say to us. So I will let you introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. So I am the Information and Access Manager for Culture Dementia UK. And for many years, we've been advocating for people living with dementia and their carers. We've gone up and down the country educating people and creating awareness. Culture Dementia try our best to support people, not just of the African Caribbean communities anymore, because so many different communities are struggling and suffering with dementia, that we support anybody who needs help or support to do with dementia or Alzheimer's.
Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you. That is powerful. Over to you, Joyce.
Thank you, Priska. You're doing an amazing job. What we're going to move on to now is we're going to play a short film, and this film is called Finding Patience. It's a dementia awareness short film. It's a really important one that Cheryl's organisation actually supported the NHS to put together, and it's specifically around awareness raising for the African and Caribbean communities. You'll find this on YouTube, and if you Google Finding Patients, NHS, Health Education England, you will find this film. But we thought it was important enough to play it tonight. And what I will say, as we go through tonight, it might be quite touching, it might be quite moving, particularly if you're going through a rough time, or if you've got a relative, or if you're a carer. Just be aware that it might be a bit sensitive, but I just want to put that warning out tonight. But I think it's important, nevertheless, that we watch this, and I think it will set the scene for us tonight. Thank you. Finding Patience.
Well, this film is about what happens when a family tries to come to terms with somebody who's starting to experience the early symptoms of dementia. It's not just about the person who's living with dementia themselves, it's about the impact on the whole family. I think it's going to be particularly useful across the public sector, for example, to help people generally who may be experiencing working with people with dementia, even if they're not working in dementia services. This film was made to raise awareness for the African Caribbean community in particular about an illness that often they tend to think maybe doesn't impact much on them as a community. I want people to learn from this film that you need to talk about these issues. You need to be able, as families, and I think wider than that, with friends and colleagues, to talk about these concerns, to think about how you might begin to get some help and support with the worries. Not to close down conversation because it's a stigmatised issue. Not to close down conversation because black people don't talk about being ill, which is an important, difficult barrier, particularly in dementia, in terms of people getting help. And to feel that there is support out there, there is information about there, it is for them, and they can get access and help. It's a great film. It's a great portrayal of an ordinary family coming to terms with something that's very, very difficult, and some of the struggle that people go through, and begin to look for some help and support.
Hey, Mum. Mum? What are you doing?
Nothing. Just thinking.
Cup of tea? Mum? I'll make you one anyway. What's up, Mum?
Damn thing. I can't get it to work.
Calm down. Let me have it. It would help if it was the right way around. Ta-da! Surely not more strictly. I don't know how you watch this stuff.
Elliot's father couldn't get enough of me curry goat. That's why he married me.
Well, Elliot certainly didn't marry me for my cooking.
Oh, Denise, can you lay the table, my sweet? Donovan will soon be here.
Anything I can do to help?
Why did Donovan put this salt last? Lord have mercy, he's always doing this.
You're silly, Nanny.
Oh, thank you, darling.
Hi, Mum.
Just checking the time you're picking me up for church.
As usual, Mum. 11:30. Everything all right?
Yes, of course.
Okay, see you soon. Love you.
See you then.
What's his name?
I forget.
Hi, Mum.
Hi, Elliot. Just checking what time you're picking me up for church.
As I said, Mum, 11:30. Are you alright, Mum?
Of course.
Sure?
Silly child.
See you then.
What's that about?
I'm not sure. Mum?
Sister Patience, what are you doing sitting there all by yourself? I was starting to worry about you. Sister Patience, are you okay?
Oh, fine, just fine. As much as can be expected at my age.
Oh, don't be soft, girl. You're still a spring chicken, just like myself. How is that sweet little thing of a granddaughter of yours? She must be at school now, mustn't she?
She'd just be 18 months old. Sleeps like a dream.
Funny. Looks like your friend Mrs. Clark.
No.
Yes, she does.
Look, Pearl got a bit. Elliot,
Jesus.
watch my rug. It'll be stained now. Go and get the stain remover quickly before the stain dries.
All right, Mum. What? Mum? Why are there tins and tins of corned beef underneath the sink?
I don't know what you're talking about. It's nothing to do with me. Must be Chantel playing a game on me.
Mum.
You know how the child likes to play her games?
Mum.
Where is the stain remover? Move yourself, boy. I'll get it myself.
Mum.
Elliot,
Yes, Mum?
bless the table, please.
For what we're about to receive, may the Lord make us truly thankful. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Mum. You've outdone yourself. Oh. Quick, Denise, the planting!
Imagine if we hadn't been there. She could have...
But we were there.
And what if it's more serious?
It's just her age. She's just not as fast on her feet as she used to be.
Babe, you've got to get her checked out. We can't just ignore the fact that something really serious is going on.
Denise, just leave it, all right? Just leave it.
Donovan!
Well, with your mother's recent behaviour and high blood pressure, I'm concerned that this could be more than just ageing.
What does all that mean?
I'd like to refer you to a memory clinic. We won't know for sure until we've done some more tests, but there is a possibility that this could be early stage dementia.
What? Say that again.
I understand your shock, but the good thing is that you both came to see us now.
Since you walked through here. Yep. This is it. Mama, you'll be okay. Trust me. I'll be right here. Alright? Come, let's go.
Really powerful film and portrayal of some of the real issues and real challenges that are faced by families right across not just the UK, but right across the globe for those people who are living with someone that has memory issues. I think a really powerful film, and it's been made some years ago, but it remains very, very powerful, moving nonetheless. And I think the poignant points that were made towards the end is that, you know, people can still lead fulfilling lives. And that's our aim. That's the aim when we care for someone with dementia, is to enable them to live as fulfilling lives as possible. I'm not going to say much more about the film because you'll hear more reflections from our panelists, but at this time we're going to move forward to hear from our psalmist, our guest psalmist tonight, which is none other than Melanie Endicott from Germany, from our church in Germany. She will introduce herself, and she will also introduce this song, which she's really given some thought and consideration to, bearing in mind the topic for tonight. Over to Melanie.
Hi, lovely ladies. In the UK, this is Melanie Endicott. I'm in Frankfurt, Germany. And Joy asked me to send a worship song. I know that the theme is caring for those with dementia. And I feel like the lyrics to this song, Rescue from Lauren Daigle, is just a blessing. So I'm sending this video. I recorded it before I went gray-haired during all the corona, but I feel like, let these words just wash over you. And I just pray that you feel the presence of God and think on his goodness. God bless you, and I'll see you soon. Rescue by Lauren Daigle. Okay. You are not hidden. There's never been a moment You were forgotten, you are not hopeless. Though you have been broken, your innocence stolen. I hear you whisper underneath your breath. I hear your SOS, your SOS. I will send out an army to find you in the middle of the darkest night. It's true, I will rescue you. There is no distance that cannot be covered over and over. You're not defenseless. I'll be your shelter, I'll be your armor. I hear you whisper underneath your breath. I hear your SOS, your SOS. I will send out an army to find you in the middle of the darkest night. It's true, I will rescue you. Oh, I will never stop marching to reach you in the middle of the hardest fight. It's true, I will rescue you. I hear you whisper underneath your breath. I hear you whisper, you have nothing left. I will send out an army to find you in the middle of the darkest night. It's true, I will rescue you. Oh, I will never stop marching to reach you in the middle of the hardest fight. It's true, I will rescue you. Oh, I will rescue you.
What a powerful song. And, you know, Melanie, you chose that song. You didn't know we were going to play that video calling Finding Patience. And it's just really, really powerful and so touching and moving. I don't know if you've got any thoughts about the song, Priska.
Thank you, Joyce. That was so powerful, Melanie. Thank you. That song is just so relevant to this series, Dementia. When God says, I will rescue you. When God says you are never alone. When God says you are never forgotten. You are never hopeless. You might feel as if you are broken, but God will find you. God will rescue you. God says you are not defenseless. Oh, wow, what a powerful, powerful, powerful song. The song says God hears you. He hears you whisper underneath your breath. And he rescues you in the middle of the darkest night. What a powerful, powerful song. It's very relevant. This is ministry in song, and it really ministered to me. Thank you so much, Melanie. Back to you, Joyce.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Priska. I think this song has ministered to so many people out there, no matter what situation you're in, no matter the challenges that you're facing. And I know right now many carers and many people are going through so much challenges, particularly post-lockdown challenges. But the song today is saying that God will rescue you. You're not alone. You're never alone. And somewhere in that darkness, God will be there and support. And we're hoping today that even through this program today, that you'll hear something from our panelists. You'll be able to make some further connections that will make your journey lighter and easier. Thank you very much. We're going to move on now to hearing from our panelists tonight. And we are excited, first of all, to speak to Dr. Carol Tomlin, who's going to be sharing from a carer's perspective, followed then by Dion, and then Priska will introduce our other two guests. So over to Dr. Carol Tomlin at this time.
Good evening, everyone. And again, that song was so poignant, and it really caused me to reflect even on my own experience and journey in terms of being a carer and what that entails. For me, the first thing I want to share is there are many things that you have to put in place when you are a carer. I actually co-care for two family members with dementia, one with vascular dementia, the other with Lewy body dementia. And I must say, I hadn't even heard of Lewy body dementia until my brother was diagnosed with it. But what I would say at this point is that it's important that you plan and that you are organized and that you are flexible, and you should be aware for any eventuality. Planning is key. If you don't plan, you will literally wear yourself out. So it's important that you plan purposefully and plan carefully. It's important as well as a carer that you contact the relevant agencies. My sister and I, who co-care, we've had to contact the social workers, we've had to contact obviously the doctors and other relevant individuals, including a lawyer vis-a-vis the power of attorney, which we both have. So there were a number of individuals that we had to contact. In terms of preparation, it's important that you prepare for your whole life being turned upside down as a carer. I have lived here, there, and everywhere. And when my mother got the diagnosis, because she received the diagnosis first, I remember just how I felt. And it's important as a carer, especially when you receive the diagnosis about your loved ones, that you take time to reflect. You take time to think about how you're feeling, because in some ways the bereavement process starts then. But we were fortunate in that we had a social worker that said to us that we must live as normal a life as possible. And my sister and I have attempted to do that. The other thing I would say is it's important to build a routine, and to take time out for yourself within that routine, because it's so easy to be consumed. It's so easy that you don't take care of yourself. But as a carer, it's important that you equally take care of yourself. And we go on holidays and we have other carers coming in. Also, my brother has respite. He lives partly here and partly at his flat. So there are a number of strategies that you have to think about and that you can think about so that your life is as normal, if you can use that word, as possible. I spend a lot of my time doing ministry. I also write books, academic books. And so I have another focus: build a hobby, develop a hobby. That's extremely important. I have a hobby. One of my hobbies, those of you who know me, I enjoy baking. And that's my passion, baking, outside of the brain work and the ministry and everything else that I do. I think it's important that you build a network of friendships, people that you can share your emotions with, because you will have days where you will become frustrated. So it's important to have an individual or individuals that you can share your feelings with honestly and openly. That's really important. If you are a Christian, then obviously prayer, praying, talking, conversing to the Lord. One of the things that I do, for example, is I walk to the park, or now I've taken up running when I've got the energy. But it's important that you build a routine for yourself. It's important that you have friendships. It's important that you still have a semblance of your own life, because when you're a full-time carer, as myself and my sister, and we are to my mother, we're the primary carers, it is very extremely time consuming. And so again, it's so critical, because you have to consider your own mental and physical and emotional well-being. And so there are a number of strategies that you can implement in order to do that. One of the things that my sister and I have done recently is watching Christian movies at the weekend, because it's important to shut down. And especially now we are in the middle of a pandemic, it's important that you build that kind of recreational time and space into your life. I think it's important as well for you to take stock of your own life when you receive the news that your loved one has dementia. It causes you, well, it caused me to reevaluate and reprioritize my life. So if your loved one has dementia or has received the diagnosis, if there isn't, if there is one thing that I'd like you to remember, is that it will change your life, because it changes, as we saw depicted accurately in that short film. It will change the person's life, obviously, but your life as well. Those of you who have faith, I would say that you really need to draw on the resources of your faith. If you are a Christian, draw on the resources of your faith, as well as the resources of friendships, as well as the resources of recreational activity. So there are a number of things that you can do. It's important that you become purposeful. That is extremely important. It is a journey, and when you're living with individuals or with an individual with dementia, you have to be prepared for any eventuality, because quite frankly, you don't know what's going to occur. and be prepared for your own emotions. There are times when you will feel frustrated. There are times when you will be frustrated at your loved ones because there will be a lack of understanding even on your part. So it requires great patience, a lot of patience as well, and not just patience with your loved ones, but patience with yourselves. So I think it's just so critical that you consider a number of issues beforehand, because the illness or disease progresses and progresses sometimes quite rapidly. Thankfully, I've not had that particular experience. And to be honest, sometimes, particularly with my mother, I forget that she has dementia. But when she repeats herself and becomes anxious, that's when I'm aware that she obviously has dementia. Obviously, it's perhaps different for some individuals whose parents or their loved ones don't live with them. Again, I had a parishioner, one of my members from my church. Her father was actually in a care home. And again, that was very different. And in terms of him not recognizing her on occasions, that was obviously very challenging. So I think it's slightly different when you do live with the person, and it can be a 24-hour job. Thankfully, we don't have any of our loved ones that, as we saw accurately depicted in that film, some people actually go wandering out. So different people will respond differently, but it's important that you are aware of the person that you're dealing with, the character of the individual, and also you become self-aware in terms of your own emotions, in terms of how you're feeling, in terms of how you're responding. That is critical, because so many people literally crash because it can be very stressful, and it can be very stressful. I mean, I can't really put it any clearer than that. You're living in a high, if you like, eventful situation, so it's important that you take time out for yourself and connect, using the words of this particular program, that you connect with others. Thank you.
Absolutely powerful. And thank you for sharing with us. I know it's can't be easy when you're a carer yourself, and but thank you for taking the time out to share with us. I'm tempted to ask you just a very quick point, just to emphasize a point around, especially around, as you said, be purposeful, prepare yourself as best you can, but there's sometimes there's just no preparation that prepares you for something like this.
No, there is none, and you have to really respond and think on your feet.
Yeah, I think there's something as well about having the knowledge and equipping yourself with the knowledge about what's happening to your loved ones. Do you think that helps?
Yeah, when my loved ones were diagnosed, because, for example, Lewy body, I hadn't heard of it, so I did the reading. Similarly with my mom, with the prognosis and the diagnosis. But with myself, there's only so much reading I can do. Otherwise, it overwhelms me. So I did a sufficient amount of reading. I then stopped. I gleaned as much information as I could, and then I responded accordingly.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Carol. Thank you. We're going to move on
Thank
now
you.
to our second panelist for tonight, who is Dion Sampson. You heard from her earlier on, someone that spent over 10 years plus working with older adults and people with dementia. Done specialist training in this area, and she's going to share with us now from how do we care, what sort of approaches and the types of dementias, and how we maintain that dignity of the individual. So over to Dion at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Joyce. This evening, may I have slide number 1, please? Okay, so this evening, I would like to say that dementia is an emotional journey. And it's not emotional for the person experiencing the dementia only, but for all those who are involved in that person's care. And you would agree with me that when one member of a family becomes ill, it can affect an entire family. And there goes the saying, illness is a family affair. Dementia is no exception. Next slide. The rising tide of dementia. This is a diagram from the Alzheimer's Society, just showing where we are going to be with dementia by 2051. Now, there are some tides that rise dramatically, causing lots of disturbances. But there are some other tides that rise quietly, just creeping over sands and muds and all of that. But nonetheless, they are very persistent and powerful. And there is a tide that will change the course of human history, and that tide is dementia. Next slide. Today, I would look at the types of dementia, person-centered care, a loving approach, and some amount of how we can communicate with people with dementia. What is dementia? Just quickly, a general term that describes a brain syndrome characterized with different sorts of a problem. It's an umbrella term, basically, just to explain neurological degeneration of the brain. Next slide. This is just a quick overview of the brain. I just want you to look at that brain. We are not going to complicate things this evening, but just look at the brain. And if you look at the part that says frontal lobe, that area is responsible for emotions and our personality. And then if you go to the back that says cerebellum, that area is responsible for balancing. And then if you look at the occipital lobe, that's our fine skills where we learn to ride bicycle, hold a pen, cut up vegetables and so on. I'm just saying all of that to explain. It all depends on where in the brain the degeneration is taking place. And it will determine the symptoms the person will present with. Next slide. So there are different types of dementia. There are over 200 types of dementia, but it's broken down into about 5 categories. So the first type of dementia is called Alzheimer's disease. The second type is vascular dementia. The third type is Lewy body. We have frontotemporal dementia, and then other less common causes, like vitamin B12 deficiency and so on. I'm not going to go into explaining all the different types. Next slide. This is where I want to get to. Person-centered care. What does this mean? It means to put the person first and not the dementia. Lots of times people put the dementia first and not the person. And we have to remember that, everything we do must center around this person, and the person needs to be discovered. Next slide. Past approach for dementia care focused on condition rather than person. It saw a collection of symptoms and problems. It placed the person second. It emphasized on how best to control challenging behavior. And this is what I would like to say this evening. We have to focus on the person rather than the condition. And if you think of a person, you know, we have quite a lot of people probably listening this evening, but think about probably a mathematics teacher, think about a lovely housewife, a lovely gardener, a beautiful dad, you know, somebody who works in an office. Think about a nurse. We are thinking about a person who has developed dementia. If such people develop dementia, how do we see them? Do we see the dementia, or can we see the teacher that lives next door? Tom Kitwood, who was a pioneer for dementia, he challenged this approach. Next slide. So, although Tom Kitwood is speaking, he said, although dementia is indeed as a result of some neurological impairment, discovering the person with dementia meant putting neuropathology in its place. And that's where the problem lies. And that's where our paradigm shift comes in. We have to put neuropathology in its place. Yes, it is difficult. Yes, it is very hard. Yes, it is challenging, but we need to see the person. We need to discover that person. And I'm going to give you an example very soon. It says here, we are now aware that a person's experience with dementia will be based on a lot of factors. So if a person have developed dementia, their personality, their biography, their health, the neurological impairment itself, and the social psychology will all depend on how that person will experience that dementia. Next slide. Personhood. It says personhood is defined as a status or a standing that is bestowed upon one human being by others in the context of relationship and social well-being. So personhood is a product of relationship. Personhood can either be nurtured or it can be diminished. So it all depends on if a person feels valued or if a person feels depersonalized. Studies have shown that a lot of people with dementia condition deteriorate, not necessarily as a result of the disease process, but because of the way they were treated. Let's talk about malignant social psychology. You know, it exists in a culture where somebody feels diminished, objectified, infantilized, you know. When stigmatized, when people feel like this, the condition itself can deteriorate. And I like to talk about Christine Bryden. She is an author of a book called Dancing with Dementia. She danced with her dementia because her husband supported her so much. That disease halted, and she was even able to write a book after that diagnosis. And that was because she was properly supported by her husband. So we are talking here about social psychology. If the environment is malignant, somebody's condition can deteriorate. Next slide. After Kitwood, there were more modern developments like Eden Alternative. Lots of people with dementia also can feel lonely and bored and helpless and so on. And this is what Eden Alternative deals with, the loneliness, the boredom, and the helplessness. And we need to also rule out all these things because these are the plague of the spirit. If somebody is lonely, bored, helpless, then again, they are going to deteriorate. So these are some of the areas we just need to pay lots of attention to. Spark of Life Australia is another initiative that was used. So let's quickly look at communication. This is feelings-based rather than just words. So when we are communicating with people with dementia, we just need to understand that these people are more feelings and emotional based now because there is no more logics for some people, especially those with moderate to severe dementia. There is no more reasoning, there is no more thinking. So when they are communicating, we have to look at the emotions behind those words. words. Example, if somebody say to you, where is my mommy? We are talking about a person who is 96 years old and is saying, where is my mommy? I need my mommy. Who is a mother? A mother is a nice person most of the time, and we all know the qualities of a wonderful mother. So if somebody is asking for their mother, it might just be that that person is feeling rather lonely, rather sad, want to be loved, want to feel loved. So what is the feelings behind all of that? You know, what is the feelings behind all of that? And then you can say, should we have a cup of tea? Can I take you outside? Can I do this? You know, and we try to meet some of those needs because, like I said, it's rather feeling based than anything else, not words. Next slide. And these are some activities around meaningful activities where people can be involved in with dementia. Next slide. And these are some phone numbers for you if you wish to make contact with any of these. Next slide. And this is some useful reading materials. And I would like to say thank you.
Thank you so much, Dion, for that. And I think, you know, you just delivered the point really simply, you know, really understandable. We could understand. And I just love, you know, you used Tom Kitwood and, you know, just showed that approaches that we can use when caring for someone with dementia. And, you know, you mentioned if someone's asking for their mother and, you know, at a certain point, as the disease progresses, because of the lack of cognitive function, they're more on the emotion and the feeling and how we communicate. And I just think it was just really positive and to the point. Thank you so much. I'm not gonna ask any questions now. We'll come back to questions later. So thank you so much. And at this time, I'm going to hand over to Priska, who's going to introduce our next two guests. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joyce. I like that in this Connect series, we are touching every aspect of dementia and how to support people living with dementia. I like the fact that Carol spoke from a carer's perspective. She spoke of being prepared. She spoke of being purposeful and, you know, self-care. Dion spoke about the pathophysiology of dementia, and she spoke about person-centered care for people living with dementia. Now we are going on to our third guest. Shez will be speaking about the impact of the loss of mental capacity and what can be put in place legally to protect and provide the welfare and care of people living with dementia, with particular emphasis on lasting power of attorney for both health, financial, and every aspect. Over to you, Shez. Thank you for being with us.
Hi, good afternoon, and thank you for everything that has been said so far. It's been really excellent, starting from the film, going all the way down to what has been said so far. And I would just like to share with you briefly, from the legal perspective, first of all, before you even think about persons going into old persons' homes or nursing homes, it's always wise to plan ahead. The scripture talks about writing a vision and making it plain. So in that regard, one of the first things people should do, not at a late age in life, but is even at this age, wherever you are, is to make a will and to do a power of attorney. A power of attorney in two forms: a lasting power of attorney for your finances and also a lasting power of attorney for your health. And those documents really guide your family and those who you care about, and it says how you want to be looked after if something should happen. A lot of people are afraid to fill in those documents because they think, oh, I won't be able to manage my money, or I want my money to be managed by me. And you always can, because in those documents, they do have a restriction, and it simply says that these documents don't come to life until a specified event has happened. That event could be you've lost your mental capacity due to something like dementia or an accident or anything which you didn't plan for. So it is really, really important that people should consider taking out a power of attorney for their property and their finances, and also for their medical health. If you don't have one of these forms, or both of these forms, and something should happen, for example, dementia, and you ended up in a care home, then the challenge would be, in addition to you facing all the emotional challenges, the next set of challenge would be, well, how are you going to deal with your mother's money or your husband's money or your sister's money and their property, because you don't have the power of attorney, and it's going to be the court who has to appoint somebody from that respect. So it's worthwhile having those. But first of all, going on to my main slide, just an introduction. If pre-adventure, your person who you love has to end up in a care home, the council, this is on my first slide, the council are the guardians of the public purse. There is an automatic assumption by everybody that if you have somebody who has dementia and you cannot afford to look after them at home, that the government would look after them. Next slide, please. Whereas the government are willing to look after your family, but they want to make sure that you don't have, or that you do have, if you have sufficient funds, they'll say, well, we'll look after your family, but you have to pay. But if you don't have sufficient funds, we will pay. So there's going to be quite a lengthy process that they will go through, and it is quite traumatic because you're already dealing with a loved one who no longer can remember things, the trauma of having to have carers at home or having to deal with the impact of how they are now. Now, on top of that, you're going to have the financial impact as well. So the council, next slide, please. What the council will be doing is saying, okay, we will look after your loved ones in a care home. And the threshold under which you won't have to pay is if you have 23,250. So if their capital or their property or their finances are below 23,250, then it's highly likely that the council will say, we will afford the care for you in one of our homes, and we may ask you just for a contribution. If their capital and funds are below 14,000, the chances are that everything will be absolutely free. Next slide, please. Okay. When the council are making a consideration as to whether they are going to fund the care, they do look into your finances really, really, really carefully. And the reason they look into your finances is because many people, how can I put it? Some people decide to get rid of their capital, get rid of their finances, shift it here or shift it there, and then come to the council and say, we don't have much money. But the council, being the guardian of the public purse, will look into every single aspect. And there are clear grounds and clear rules under which the council must fund your care for dementia if you're not entitled to continuing healthcare. And these are what they call mandatory grounds. And the rules are very clear and they cannot be got around. First of all, you go into a home and they will give you 12 weeks free of charge. And that's really to adapt and to get used to what's about to happen. They must also disregard any property that you have lived in if you still have relatives who live in that property. And those relatives are qualifying relatives, i.e. they should be over the age of 60, and or they could be on some kind of benefits or incapacitated in some way. As long as those things happen, then they won't take into consideration your own property or the property of your parents, and they won't want to put a charge on your parents' house and say that they have to pay for their own care. Also, if the person occupies a property as their own home, and if the carer occupies a property as their main and own home, again, they will disregard the property and that won't become subject to paying for the care fees. Okay, next slide, please. Now, there is what they call a discretionary disregard, and that's different to the mandatory disregard. And the councils don't have to apply these, but they can. And different councils across the world and across England will apply things differently. The mandatory disregard, they must apply. These ones are at their discretion, and it's really up to the family to convince the local authorities why they should apply these discretionary disregards and why, for example, your family's home or your parents' home or your siblings' home shouldn't be used to cover their medical cost. And some of the things that they will look into is maybe, for example, I'll tell it to you in a story, although you can see the slide. If, for example, Mary was looking after her mother, but Mary had her own house in Newcastle. And then as Mary's mother at home with dementia was getting a little bit worse, Mary decided to move into her mother's house. She sold her own house and she moved in with her mother for the last 2-3 years, and she has been at her mum's house. So now when the mother is unfortunately so bad that she has to go into hospital, Mary might only be 45. She's not 60, so she hasn't reached that age requirement. But the council will consider on a discretionary basis that Mary has given up her home. She has been looking after her mother for so long, and to take away the house, as in to put a charge on it, would make Mary homeless as well. So that would be an example of a discretionary disregard that the local authorities would look at and say, well, okay, although, for example, we could charge your house, we're not going to, because the example that I've just given. And each case is going to be considered on its own merits. Next slide, please. Okay, some of the factors that the council are going to look at when they're making this assessment, everybody who's going into a care home, whether it be for dementia, is going to have to go through a financial assessment. And some of the factors that you will find helpful, or the council will find helpful, what they're looking at is, when did the relative start occupying the house with you? If, for example, you've had somebody move in 2 weeks before you've applied for a care home, that won't work. It's hardly likely that would work. Another thing they'll look at is, was occupation their main home? And what I mean by that, I'll give it to you in another story. So Mrs. X is suffering from dementia. She moves out of that home and she goes to live with her daughter, Charlotte. And she's been living there for the last 3 years. Then Charlotte can no longer manage or cope. So she applies for help from the local authority. Mrs. X property is being rented out, or her son's moved into it. But remember, she moved in with Charlotte. What the council will say, well, your main home wasn't Charlotte's home. Your main home was your other home. So therefore, they probably wouldn't be looking at giving you a discretionary disregard, and they would be saying, well, we're going to charge your own home. Another thing that the council will be looking at is the impact this is going to have on your family. If, for example, it means your family who are now looking after you are going to go completely broke, they're not going to have anywhere to live, they've spent all their money looking after you when you were at home with them, they will take that into consideration. And it's quite possible, according to which local authority is looking at the funding, they may be willing to disregard that. So these are just points I'm sharing with you that you can bear in mind and make plans ahead. Please, as the first speaker said, plan ahead. Don't leave this to the last minute. Plan well ahead, even now. Even if somebody you're living with doesn't appear to be showing signs of dementia, plan your property and how you're going to deal with it ahead. Next slide, please. Okay, these are some of the tactics that people use to try and avoid paying care home fees on the premises that their family may need care because they're suffering from dementia. And I would just like to say again at this stage, sometimes if people don't have any property, they don't have any assets, they don't have any capital, it's quite likely that even though they've undergone a financial assessment, that they will receive full care. And some of the tactics people use quickly is they sell off their property, they gift away all their finances to their children or to their in-laws, they change the name of ownership on the property really quick, they create family trusts 6 months before their parents are going into, or their family are going into care homes, and they just don't cooperate with financial investigations, and they give lump sums to their grandchildren, and they say they're paying off all their debts. Now, people who do this pretty near to when a relative, it was obvious that they needed care, the council will see through these tactics and will say, we are going to count all the money that you've given away as if you still had it. Even though you've given it away, even though you've signed it away to your next of kin, to your children, they're going to say it's like deprivation, and they're going to conclude it's notional capital, which means we're going to bring it back into existence and charge your family as if you had it. So these tactics don't work, but financial planning is very, very worth doing ahead. Next slide, please. And I've almost finished. The council will take the money back. If they think that you have deliberately deprived yourself of the money, they will take it back. Next slide, please. The intention is key. You have to show the intention of you sharing the money, putting somebody else's name on the property. Depriving was, you have to show the intention was not to deliberately deprive the state of costing of the care home fees. And there are so many ways to do that if you do it in advance. And that's really the end of this part of the presentation. Thank you very much. I hand back over.
Thank you, Shez. That was really powerful from a legal perspective. The most important item I've picked up is to plan ahead. And it was really good that you spoke of the lasting power of attorney in terms of finances and health. And I think it is important, really important, as it emphasizes on how one wants to be looked after. There are a lot of myths and truths, and like you said, automatic assumptions that people place on dementia, how finances will be held during the time a person needs to go into a nursing home. But you have demystified the issue of financial support in terms of perhaps one going into a nursing home or even getting formal carers to come and look after them in their own home. It is also good that you delved into the factors that council may consider when giving support, particularly the fact that you mentioned about tactical deprivation. I found that to be quite useful because it's so easy to do. It's so easy for people to think, oh, we'll wait until the last minute and sell the house and gift it to grandchildren. But you've emphasized on the fact that people need to plan ahead. And I think this is the most important thing that we are taking out of your presentation with regards to the legal aspect of dementia care. Thank you so much, Shez. Now we go on to our next speaker, Cheryl Jackson, who will be speaking on giving us an overview of Dementia UK, how Dementia UK supports the Black and ethnic minority communities in the UK. And I think this will also be helpful to all our guests from all over the world, because dementia is affecting everybody from all over the world. And welcome again to our guests from all over the world. Please feel free to comment, put up your flags so we know you are with us. So I'll give this time to Cheryl to speak about Dementia UK and to signpost us to all the relevant services that we can use. I'm sure there is dementia in the churches. Local pastors, need to know what to look out for, how to support church members living with dementia. So I think your presentation will be very, very essential and important. Over to you, Cheryl.
Thank you, and I'm so happy to be here this evening to be able to talk to you on this series about dementia. Now, dementia is a thing within the community that a lot of people in the BMA communities don't sometimes get that support that they need. And this is mainly due to the stigma that is still connected and surrounding dementia. A lot of the times, families, they get embarrassed. They don't want other people to know that they're struggling or they're suffering. We normally say they suffer behind closed doors. Still within the African communities and the Caribbean communities, it's still felt that, look, you've done something wrong, or you've come from a bad family, or don't get involved with those people because they're mad. You're mad, you're bad. And they're not understanding that this has got nothing to do with being ungodly, nothing to do with being sinful. This is something, sadly, that comes with the same hand that penicillin comes from. Now, we're living longer. And because we're living longer, one of the things that we have to sadly deal with is dementia and Alzheimer's. Now, I want to go a bit further backwards before we even get to dementia, especially within the African, Caribbean, and South Asian communities. It has been found that our problem is not so much Alzheimer's, but it is vascular dementia. Now, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that we can't suffer from other types of dementia, but our main problem for our cultures is vascular dementia. And the reason being is because of our lifestyles. Sadly, within the Black community, we are more prone to developing diabetes, high blood pressure, and mini strokes. To put it in a layman's term, I call these dementia's cousins. Now, if you have developed, which at least 2/3 of our population do or will develop, diabetes, high blood pressure, or mini strokes, you automatically put yourself in a bracket later on in your life to develop dementia. So what we have to do as a community is try and change our lifestyles. Think about the foods we're eating. Think about exercise. Even if you develop any one of these diseases, how you take your medication, you must make sure that, it's not just all over the place. Listen to your GPs, listen to your doctors, and listen to what they're trying to tell you. Because the problem you have is if you don't control these diseases and you get that fluctuation, this is the time when blood to your blood vessels get cut off and can lead to what we call mini strokes. Now, every time you have a mini stroke, that means you damage a blood vessel in your brain, or you kill that blood vessel in the brain. And this is what we refer to as vascular dementia. So, as I said, this all starts a lot earlier than dementia. We need to, as a community, to avoid even putting or getting in that bracket to potentially put us in that box to develop dementia later on in life. Carol said when she spoke to us that, you know, patience, we need patience when dealing with people with dementia. Now, I'd like to even take that even further. You know, when you become a carer looking after people with dementia, you can go through so many emotions, and some of us get angry. I mean, really angry at the situation that we're in. This is something that, you know, you might feel bad with yourself, but it's quite normal to experience all different types of emotions. You know, one thing about having to look after somebody with dementia, it can take up your whole life. And if you're not careful, you might find that you even become ill yourself. So, you know, try and seek help, try and, you know, get the network around you to support you, which can, again, sometimes be hard, because the practical, or in theory, let's put it in theory, this is how it should be, but one can find when a loved one develops that disease, people draw away from you. So you yourself become very isolated trying to care and look after somebody with dementia. But I mean, there are certain online groups that you can join, and there are people within social services that have certain things out there that can help you. But, you know, by any means of the stroke, looking after somebody with dementia can change your life. It is life-changing. And it can be the middle of the night when somebody's sundowning and they refuse to go to sleep, and you don't know what to do anymore, that you just want to talk to somebody at the other end of the phone and there's nobody there to talk to. Culture Dementia have what we call a helpline. This runs 24 hours a day, and if you feel like you need somebody to talk to, if you feel like you need help, you know, you're always welcome to phone us, and there'll be a friendly voice at the other end of the line to support you. What can I say about dementia? Dementia is one of the most cruelest, degrading things that a family can be involved in, especially if it's one of your loved ones. It's almost like you die twice. You know, if it's your mother, that mother that you thought you knew, she is the same person, but she will change in front of you. But never forget that she is your mother or your loved one, and you know, you just have to do the best that you can do for them to support them. Now, sometimes when you're looking after someone with dementia, how can I explain this? It is hard for you to live your own life, and you also become very resentful. You have to try to do the best that you can and seek support yourself, because you can't do it alone. And there are certain organizations out there that will try and support you as much as you can. If you don't understand about dementia itself, the Alzheimer's Society have a lot of information out there that you can read up on the different types of dementia, what to expect as you go along your journey, because there's different stages. There's stage 1, there's stage 2, there's stage 3, because what a lot of people tend to do is they don't actually find out what's going to happen, and nobody is actually saying, well, this is what's going to happen at this point, that's going to happen at that point, and then everything just becomes even more frustrating for you. So please read up about dementia. There's also an organization called DAS. There's a lot of resources on their website, especially pertaining to the BAME communities. So again, it gives you an idea of what your journey will entail. And of course, Culture Dementia are always there for you at any time to support you and help you and signpost you to any problems or issues that you may have. It's been a pleasure speaking to you this evening.
Thank you, Cheryl. That was powerful and again, very, very relevant. Normally, the cultural aspect of dementia is never looked into, but it impacts highly, definitely highly on all of us on a social aspect, psychological aspect, emotional aspect. You mentioned that, rightly so, that dementia in the Black and ethnic minority communities is actually stigmatized. And you mentioned that people are actually embarrassed to come out to say they've got dementia or a family member has got dementia. So, and actually sometimes it is considered as madness, and in some churches it can be seen as a demon. So
yes,
you demystifying the cultural aspect of dementia is quite helpful because people need to know that it is not ungodly and it is not sinful. It's just a condition. You mentioned something that was really, powerful, that, dementia has its cousins, which relate to partly our lifestyle, where we get diabetes, we get hypertension, and we get strokes. So it is good that you've advised people to consider lifestyle changes in terms of diet, taking their medications, exercising, and Carol, our first speaker, mentioned about early recognition, early diagnosis, so you know how to cope with it. So this is really powerful. Thank you so much for a powerful presentation. But I picked on one last thing that you mentioned. You said nobody can do this alone. People definitely need support networks. People need to be surrounded. You can't be an island unto your own self with regards to dementia. You need people to support you, to surround you. And in Prophecy Kogop UK Women's Ministry, we have connect groups. Perhaps this is, an opportunity for a local church to, form a connect group on dementia and how to support our church members with dementia. And you also mentioned there are online resources that our pastors and church leaders can actually go into. Dementia UK is easy to access online. Just type Dementia UK in your browser and all the resources will come up. Thank you so much. That was so powerful. Back to you, Joyce.
Thank you so much, Priska. You're born for this. Absolutely fantastic co-host for tonight. Absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
I'm just mindful that the time has just flown away from us, and we do want to get a few questions in the next 10, 15 minutes that we have, and we do have some questions, but I just wanted to make sure that we don't lose. You got 2 questions from the audience for our panelists, so if we can bring all our panelists back, that'd be absolutely great. One of the questions, and then we'll go, Priska will then ask some other questions, but one of the questions is about lifestyle and what sort of diets people should be on. And I know that we could take all night talking about that, but we won't be able to do that. And the second question was about how can people actually prepare themselves financially. So one on lifestyle and one on what do they need to do practically to actually get going with the financial preparation. Yeah. Okay.
Lifestyle. I could talk about lifestyle. You know, especially the African and the Caribbean nations of people, we actually eat quite a high carbohydrate meals. Our staple diet is rice and yams, and in actual fact, and especially pertaining to diabetes, because lots of us, you know, do struggle with diabetes. What is not understood, or what is misunderstood by us, is diabetes equates to sugar. But what our congregation are not getting is a spoon. If you put this much of rice, I put my hand up, in your hand, as soon as that hits the body, it turns to sugar. We have our plates full of rice. We have to change the way we eat. More veg, more protein, less carbohydrates. Because if we don't change the structure of the way we eat, this is why we're not in warm countries, maybe where we can burn it up and we're walking up and down the mountainside or everything. We're quite sedentary, and this is the problem. We're not able to burn that. So when it hits our bodies, we're just sitting there, and hey presto, before you know it, a couple of years time, diabetes, sir. So again, these are things that we have to change.
Thank you so much. I think we could do a whole program just on diet, healthy eating, and maybe we have to come back to that. And just the one on the finance, and then Priska, I'm going to ask you to ask one of the other questions that we've got prepared. That someone asked, where do they start? You know, if you're going to make a preparation, where do they start practically? Rashez, I think this question's yours.
I think that in relation to where do you start making your plans from now. There is nothing wrong with having a power of attorney over the finances of any senior member of your family, and also over the health and their well-being. Why it's important to have that now, and this is before anything, before any signs of early diagnosis, and we have to plan ahead, is because just like people make wills to say how they want their estate to be distributed after they've gone, if anything could happen to you, not just dementia, you could just wake up one day and your head hurts, you rush to the hospital, brain tumor, car accident. And if you want people to be able to say, people that you trust, to be able to take care of your finances, as in to take care of your medical bills, how your home is going to be distributed. You have to have these things in place. If you wait until somebody may be displaying signs of dementia, and then you said, okay, I'm going to do a power of attorney for their finances and over their health and welfare so I can see what medication they're going to be having, it might be too late, because somebody may assess them as not having capacity. And then what will happen? The court will appoint somebody to be in control over your parents' finances or your family's finances and their health and well-being, what medication they take. And whoever the court appoints, every time they act, they're going to charge. Every single time they make a decision for your family, they will be charging you. So it's better to have this in place in advance. And what other financial preparations you can make? Again, I'm going to say this loosely. There is nothing wrong at this stage, before any kind of symptoms happen. They may never happen. Put somebody else's name on your property. Do it way in advance. If you're going to make family trusts, do it way in advance before somebody is even diagnosed with any challenge. And those kind of things can help you make financial preparation that won't come back and haunt you.
Thank you so much, Shez. I think there is something, though, about the African and Black communities in particular. I think it probably relates to some of our Asian communities, of this secrecy and not wanting to share information about people's finances. So almost like a cultural thing, where it's like almost taboo to talk about finance and putting a will in place. It's like, what, you want me to die? That type of thing. You know, so there's something about how we break some of that down as well.
Sister Joyce, can I just say, you know, people are under a myth about lasting power of attorneys, whether it be for finance and health. They actually don't kick in until you lose capacity. When you, as the donor, make the lasting power of attorney, you say when it kicks in. So no one has to know anything about your finances until something happens. So people think that the minute you sign that somebody's going to be in your business. No, they won't be able to touch your finances, to look at your finances until. So that's an important point to make.
Thank you. I think Priska's got a question for...
Thank you, Joyce. I'm going to direct this question to Cheryl. And it's a two-part question. I'll, say it quickly. So if one is a carer and they are really struggling, do you offer out-of-hours services? And how best would you signpost to relevant helpful services, seeing most people actually do not have access to online resources? Do you have anything in place that we can use?
Culture
like
dementia per se. Culture dementia per se do not offer any out of hours services, bar the telephone. We have an emergency telephone number that one can phone. That actually is 0800 018 8682. And there will always be somebody at the other end to help them, guide them, give them information, or just a friendly ear to talk to, if that's what you need. I mean, we've had calls from all over the world that people just wanting to talk, wanted to gain information, and that's what we do.
Lovely. Thank you so much. That's so helpful. My last question is, how can we be more equipped as a church organization to support our leaders in supporting church members living with dementia, or community members, living with dementia, including their carers?
At the end of the day, we go to church to praise God.
Amen.
We put our faith in that pastor who is going to lead us.
That's
Therefore,
right.
we need to educate our pastors. Our pastors are the key, because through their ministries, through their sermons, they can tell their congregations, you're not bad, you're not mad, you've got dementia.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you
I mean,
so much, Sherry. That is so relevant. Thank you so much. So, are there any learning or training, online training that pastors can access?
At the moment, there's nothing that I would call BMAE orientated, but at least a foundation that they could start with is something that the Alzheimer's Society does. And it's called
Right.
Dementia Friends. And they will find that on the Alzheimer's website.
That's right. Thank you so much. Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Over to you, Joyce.
Thank you, Priska. That was what I was going to come in to say, that we have actually promoted the Dementia Friends across our churches previously. Sorry. And in our communities, and I think it's something that we really do need to push. And it doesn't have to be the pastors. We have leaders. There's a leadership team. We have women ministry leaders. We have, and I think we really do need to make that information available. And it really is. It's a short training pack. And it's just information, just getting some information about and raising awareness about dementia. And let's face it, people are living longer. We're going to see more people. The statistics, Dion, thank you, showed us the statistics. By 2025, there'll be more than 1 million people with dementia. So we do need to prepare, equip ourselves, and take this as an organization, but also just as community people, just sharing this information across our communities. I think we've probably got time for a couple more questions, and I'd like to direct one to Carol. At least you're not going to get away without a question. One to Carol, and certainly one to Dion. So, Carol, I mean, thank you for sharing what you shared as a carer. And one of the points we made, you mentioned that actually from the diagnosis, it's almost like you experience a bereavement, a loss. What would you encourage, carers? How do they deal with that? Because that must be really emotionally and psychologically quite difficult to come to terms with.
Yeah. That is an excellent question. I think a lot depends on your own personality and your own coping strategy. My personality is one where I feel whatever I'm feeling immediately. So I tend not to have a delayed reaction. So when I had the diagnosis for my mom, which was the first one, I remember I was living in Birmingham and I came to Leeds, where I'm living now, my mom lives. And I remember going back and being in my bed and just weeping because I was aware of the ramification. Because when you're the child, no matter how old you are, you're that person's child, you almost see your parents as being eternal. You don't think of them
Yes.
one day passing. And so that realization hit me quite forcefully. And then because I'm living with my mom and my brother, there are times I think about it, because that's the reality. And so I suppose that's my way of preparing myself. And on top of that, I have to minister because I'm also a leader of a church. So, but I'm very much aware of my own feelings, my own emotions, and cognitively making sense of the experience and the situation. Nothing prepares you for it, nothing. And because of my relationship with the Lord, it's a daily encounter with him in terms of telling him how I feel. I am not a fan of the secrecy in our community. And of course, we have some things are private because that's, I think, prudent to do that. But some of the things that we're private about, it's killing us, quite frankly, and it's killing us psychologically and in so many other ways. And it's not useful for productive, fruitful, even spiritual living, because that's not what the Bible tells us in terms of how we must behave. But I'm not going to preach now. So that's how I certainly dealt with it. And I'm still in that process because it's a process. So I can't tell you how I'm going to feel in a year or two as the illness progresses. I don't know, but it's a moment by moment, day by day, and I respond. And my sister and I, we talk about it quite regularly. So I think I'm fortunate I've got someone that I can talk to. Find someone to talk to. Find someone to talk to. Obviously, talk to the Lord, but find somebody in human flesh to talk to. That's what I would say.
No, thank you. Thank you so much, Carol. I think, and thank you for your openness and your transparency about your experience. And I think, Cheryl, you're agreeing. And I could see, Dion, you were nodding as well to, and just endorsing what you were saying, Carol, and just Dion, you talked about personalization and personhood, and I just wanted, and then Carol, you talk sometimes you do get frustrated because the human, you get frustrated at the individual, your loved ones, and Dion, a question for you: how best can we continue to maintain the dignity of a person living with dementia in terms of their choices, in terms of their privacy, and in terms of personalization?
Thank you for that question, sister. Thank you for that question. I think in terms of their choices, we can make them binary choices. So to make it less complicated for them, we can give people with dementia two choices. So you can say, what would you like for lunch today? Would you like some tuna sandwiches or some cheese sandwiches? Like two choices. Try and give them closed-ended questions to ease their confusion and their frustration, especially the people living with moderate dementia. In terms, and another example is even clothing. Would you like the red top or the blue top? So you narrow it down to just two, as against giving them a whole host of things to choose from and, causing them to feel more confused. In terms of privacy, whatever procedure is being carried out for them, their dignity and their privacy should be maintained at all times, and even data privacy, because where I work, I see people say, well, you know, this child should not be told this information about me because she doesn't care. So if this child calls, please don't say this, please don't say that. So we have to respect people's privacy, even in terms of their data. With regards to personalization, people are highly individualized. And even to the way we care for people with dementia, whether our own family or we are working in care, care is highly individualized, because some people would like a little bit of a lipstick, you know, after getting washed and dressed. Lipstick is their thing, and you give them that little bit of a lippy. And I remember I was working in one place where one man couldn't accept the breakfast or the lunch. When you offer him his food, he says, I don't want it. And you said, why is that? He said, because I didn't pay for it. I didn't pay for that. And you try to explain to him that it was paid for and you don't have to pay for this. This is free. But he would never take it. So what did we do? We had to print some money for him and then give him his food, and then he was able to pay. So that was a highly individualized something, because you know, it wasn't trickery, but it was to bring him some peace and to bring him some comfort. He probably used to be the kind of a person that paid for everything and probably, you know, wasn't given anything free or some sort. I don't know where he was coming from with that, but we printed some money, we were able to give him that money, and he was able to pay for this food. And that was only because we did not want his nutritional status to drop in any way. So we had to come up with ways and means of helping him. So care is always going to be highly, highly, highly individualized from person to person.
And I think that's a really, really important point. Very important, the personalized agenda and understanding the life and the background of that individual and trying to find out their preferences is really, yeah, do come back, Dion.
Yes, so there is this book that is called This Is Me. There is a This Is Me book for people who have got dementia. When you open that book, the stories are amazing. And just reading that will help you to plan that care for anybody. Just read the This Is Me book and it will help you to plan care. So you see a busy person 3 a.m. in the morning, very busy, is because he was accustomed to selling milk. So he's getting up that early to go and sell milk. And, you know, you have to find ways and means of helping him to cope very well around 3 a.m. in the morning, because he was accustomed to selling milk at that time. So, yes, that's all I want to say.
I think that is so important. And I've seen those books as in my work, working in the NHS, visiting some of the wards and units, and those life, this is my life book, this is your life book, you know, just getting to know the person, who that person is and their background, and really treating them with the right care and right respect. I'm just conscious now that it's gone past 9:30, and time has just flown away this evening. And I think, you know, there is one question from the audience, last question that if you would permit me to ask, and that is, if someone very quickly sum this up in just a couple of sentences, or where people could get the information. And this is, what are some of the classic symptoms they should be aware of?
Is that for me?
Please, yes, please take it, Dion, yes, and any of you could take it, yes.
Okay, some of the classic symptoms are like memory loss and forgetfulness and inability to plan, and even emotional instability. Those are some of the very early signs. But recently I've learned something new from a psychologist, a Swedish psychologist, and he said when a person loses their arm swing, when we walk, we normally swing our arms, and if our left arm go forward, our left leg would go behind. That's a normal mechanism. And when that mechanism is reducing, it can be an early sign of dementia. He said even before memory loss and forgetfulness, you can see a reduction in a person's arm swing. So this is a new one that I've learned. But
Can I just add to that from a carer's perspective, and those of you in the medical field will obviously bear me out on this one. Repetition. One of the things that I've found certainly with my mother is repetition, particularly when she's anxious. So with the memory loss will come repetition. I've got a friend, and she actually said her mum has passed, unfortunately, that her mum would repeat herself quite often. And I've found that that's a symptom, and certainly something that my mum does. Repetition is another sign, and just being disorientated. At the early stage, my mother went to town, and when she went to the town centre, she said to my sister that she didn't know where she was, and we could see her spatial awareness seemed to be impaired. So that was another sign, and that was before her memory loss, which was progressive. And sometimes you're not sure whether it's age or the onset of dementia.
I would actually like to say at this point that if these things are happening, if you're experiencing these things, the repetitive behavior, memory loss, anything like that, I mean, it might not necessarily be dementia, because there's other things that mimic dementia, like a simple urine infection that can mimic dementia. Depression can mimic dementia. So first and foremost, one has to get to their GP to get a proper diagnosis, because it could still be any number of things. Thank you.
I totally agree with that. Yes.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Priska, have you got any last words for the panel before we close?
Thank you so much, panel. Thank you, ladies. That was so powerful. I'm sure everyone out there, including ourselves, we've learned a lot, and we've got a lot to take out of this session. Thank you so much for your input. And God bless you.
Thank you. Bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thanks, everybody.
Priska, wow. That was just amazing.
I hope I didn't mess up things.
No, Priska, we're still live. We're still live, Priska. We're still live. We're just going to summarize, and you are absolutely amazing. And I'm sure, please, everybody that's watching, put some fire in the chat for Priska. Wasn't she absolutely amazing tonight?
Thank you.
And she, we just, your background in health, thank you so much for being my co-host tonight. I couldn't have done it without you tonight, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
Just in terms of summarizing the chat for tonight's program, I think you summarized so well as we were going along. First of all, hearing from Dr. Carol, perspectives of the carer and being purposeful, finding time for carers, finding time for themselves and not feeling guilty. Because one of the things she said was, if you've got to go on holiday, get some respite, and make sure that you live as normal a life as possible. And Dion, you know, she was amazing, wasn't she?
She was lovely. Thank you so much, Dion. That was powerful. Just understanding the pathophysiology of dementia is really crucial, so people know what to look out for and how to cope. Especially the bit about person-centered care. It's really important to personalize the support and care that we give to our relatives suffering from dementia.
Mm. And of course, Shares, our lawyer, resident lawyer, you know, sharing, you know, the information about, you know, I think the key message is don't wait until, you know, there's a problem. You put these measures in place, your lasting power of attorney, your will. Look into the financial situation. Don't wait, is what she said. Once it's in place, nothing happens. It all kicks into place if you get to the point where it's needed and you're losing capacity. So what she was saying is early preparation is really, really important, and let's not bury our head in the sand. And this privacy thing, you know, just hiding and I can't share this. You know, I think Carol just said, you know, this privacy thing is killing us. It's killing our community. And finally, Carol was just so positive, you know, and she did give us a telephone number. Anybody can call anywhere in the world. We'll make sure that's made available on our website. So I think without any further ado, we're going to say goodbye. Thank you for joining us. We are going to, we had a note here from Wanda Endicott. Yeah.
Yes.
Thanking all the team for putting this so important topic together. Thank you. Thank you for that feedback. Bishop Endicott and Sister Wanda and all the brethren in Germany. I know we had someone in from Florida and also Malta and South Wales. You know, all of you that's taken the time to join us this evening, we really, really appreciate you. I'm going to give you the last word, Priska, before we close out with that beautiful song from Melanie Endicott. Last word just to say bye-bye to everyone.
Thank you so much for joining us in this series. The last three most important things that I have taken out of this series is be prepared, be purposeful, and have some self-care if you are a carer. And, you know, this series has been really powerful because everybody is touched by dementia in one form or another. So this has been really powerful. We've been equipped with the knowledge, skills, and understanding of supporting people living with dementia, especially us from the Black and ethnic minorities. You know, God is awesome. It is important to understand dementia as a condition, not to stigmatize, to feel embarrassed about it. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure fellowshipping with you and connecting with you. Amen.
Thank you. And goodbye. Can I just say one thing? I nearly forgot that tonight we really wanted to launch our national conference, women's conference, which will take place on the 29th of May. And our theme is redigging the wells, redig your wells, repositioning for revival. I'm so excited to announce that we will have Dr. Cindy Trim from USA joining us on our virtual conference with prophetic impartations. We have guest speakers, as you can see, Minister Roxanne Varlet from the USA. We will have Dr. Carol Tomlin from They're here in the UK. Our own Shamara Fletcher talking about your inheritance, millennials, redig the wells, it's your inheritance. And Dr. Kate Coleman talking about women in leadership. And in the afternoon, we will have connect groups. You'll have the choice of 12 connect groups from eminent leaders and within COGOP and external on various topics. You will also have a marketplace over lunchtime and an evening session. The cost is, we've reduced the cost, £25. Please book. Go online to www.cogop.org and register as soon as possible. And share. It promises to be an exciting global conference. It doesn't matter which country you're from. We want to see you at Redig the Wells, and join our private Facebook page where we'll be having discussions and further information. And keep your eyes out on the website for further information. So thank you all so much. And God bless you tonight as we close out with that song about from Melanie Endicott being rescued. God bless you all. Amen.
You are not hidden. There's never been a moment you were forgotten. You are not hopeless. You have been broken, your innocence stolen. I hear you whisper underneath your breath. I hear your SOS, your SOS. I will send out an army to find you in the middle of the darkest night. It's true, I will rescue you. There is no distance that cannot be covered over and over. You're not defenseless. I'll be your shelter, I'll be your armor. I hear you whisper underneath your breath. I hear your SOS, your SOS. I will send out an army to find you in the middle of the darkest night. It's true, I will rescue you. Oh, I will never stop marching to reach you in the middle of the hardest fight. It's true, I will rescue you. I hear you whisper underneath your breath. I hear you whisper